Hey John.
Hey man, how you doing, guy?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good.
I am trying to turn my camera on. Hey, I sent you a quick email. I want to catch up. There's something I want to show you. It's kind of cool. It's kind of the basis for that diagram I had that's in my deck.
Yeah, I actually had some more questions about that diagram too. So, but yeah, I'll shoot you a note
Sure.
sometimes.
Hey Johnny,
Hey, what's up, amigos?
how are you?
Oh man, I'm to be real honest with you, I'm having a bad day. But this meeting makes me happy. Putting out fires, like those kind of days where it feels like you put one thing, you deal with one thing and another thing comes up. I'm having one of those days.
No, I don't know what you mean. It's everything's just always roses around here.
Oh man, you mean I'm alone? I was so scared that was the case. I was scared. I was the only person that was blowing it in this world. Yeah. Yeah, this puts a smile on my face, man. Get another hour with people that are in the trenches with me. One question I'm
How's it
gonna
going?
ask. Oh, hey, what's up, Jake? One question I'm gonna ask that you can be thinking about now. There's a main question that we'll get to, which is more on the media benefit side. But one question I'm gonna ask is kind of sum up your expertise in your area of expertise in your realm in 2 to 4 words, and then throw that in the chat. I want everybody to do that. So I'm going to try to not do a little bit of introduction, depending on I've got like 11 people set to show up. So depending on who all shows up out of those 11, um, I want to accelerate the process of getting to know each other. So 2 to 3 words in chat while we're waiting, that kind of sum up how you see your expertise. I'll go first. Which it's going to be really surprising to everybody when you see mine. Joel, good to see you, man.
What's up, guys?
Hey, everybody's doing an exercise right now. We're kind of summing up our expertise or your superpower, whatever you want to call it, in 2 to 4 words.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
Hey,
Yeah,
superpower and expertise don't necessarily line up there, Johnny.
they don't necessarily.
Fine.
Yeah. My language isn't as precise as it could be, but I'm just gonna trust that people know what I'm saying. And you better stop heckling me like this is the Muppet Show, Jake. I saw there was on Saturday Night Live, there was a skit with the the guys, the puppets that heckle are like heckling the show from the from the balcony. And these bouncers go up and beat them down. It's the best. Just watch two grown. It's Keegan Michael Key and I think Keenan go up and beat up the Muppets. So worth a watch if you want to look that up. If you want to see
Awesome.
two burly dudes beat up Muppets, it's fun. All right, so I've got Jacob, fractional CTO, love
No,
it.
skip that one. You got to go to the second
Oh,
one.
okay. Okay, so you got 5 words, but I won't penalize you.
Nope.
At least not where you can see. All right, and then Guy, you got problem solving affordably and quickly. Love it. Love it. You are a problem solver. Joel Hughes, rational problem solver and connector of dots. Oh, dude. Okay, I might actually have follow-up questions for people. I like that. Building media building teams. Yeah, man. See, okay, that's what I'm complimenting you all day on that. So it's good to know that you see that as your superpower. Jacob, innovative solutions creator doesn't count because he already went. So whatever. And then that was Caleb, operational streamlining via technology. Beautiful. All right. And then for anybody that just jumped in, I think that's just you. Oh, no, Kenny and Blair. Yeah, 2 to 4 words, how you would sum up your expertise. before we get into the agenda. And then Marta, I see you're just coming in. So same thing for you, Marta. 2 to 4 words of how you would sum up your expertise. Good to see you. All right, cool. We're about to launch the spaceship pretty soon. So this is actually a different combo than we had last time, which I actually like. Got a couple new faces here. A couple people that were able to make it this time that weren't able to make it on the last run. And so I think what I'm going to do is to keep it quick for each person. I'm going to ask a quick targeted question, and then we'll go into the agenda. So for Guy, problem solving affordably and quickly. Tell me one thing about yourself as a problem solver.
The problems I solve are usually 3 years ahead of where everybody else is. I spent 3 years pushing the rock up a hill and evangelizing. I met John, what was it, 2013, or 2014? We were pushing the concept of connected TV and OTT and evangelizing that before. Now I don't even work in that space because everybody's an expert now, but we were really pushing what the business models were. And so I'm usually about 3 years ahead. I did paywall, did the very first paywall with Scripps Memphis Commercial Appeal in 2011. Took me 3 years to push that rock up the hill as well. So always early.
Yeah. Love it, man. Thank you. All right. And then Joel, connector of dots. What does that mean?
Really two different meanings. One is just seeing how different systems can work together in the most practical way. So just seeing like a process flow, understanding that these people need this, stuff comes in over here, stuff's got to happen in the middle.
Yep.
And just presenting that in a way that people seem to understand it for the first time, which feels good. And then just people and connections as well. Just understanding, oh, I remember a guy that did that. Let me put you in touch with them because you guys have to meet, sort of thing. I do that all the time. So that's double meaning there.
Love it, man. And this is in the context of CDO. Is that the title you've had in the past?
Yeah, CDO. So it's always been a heavy dose of product somewhere, or I mean, product and tech, but so not just the product guy and not just the tech guy. It's something in between. So whatever that is.
Right. You bridge those. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love it, man. Okay. All right. And then John Garrett, you said media building teams. What's the secret?
The secret is the talent.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's all about, birds of a feather flock together. A players want to be with A players, right?
Yeah, so true.
I think I have a bunch of A players at CI, and that's what changes companies. That's what changes your outlook on the future. And so I've had a lot of success being able to do that.
Yeah. And I'm sure that really means a gift in identifying people and their gifts. Sounds like, to put them on the right seat on the right bus. So Jake, you say innovative solution creator. What does innovative mean to you?
Innovative is really understanding the problem and digging deep to the undercurrents. It's like treating the symptoms or treating the underlying problem. So really deeply understanding it and then coming up with a creative way to find a solution, to bring the pieces together. And I thrive on that. That's what gives me life.
Yeah.
Solving complex problems.
Yes. Yep. All right, sweet, man. There's so much I could add, but I'm gonna move on. All right. So then Caleb, operational streamlining via technology. So a streamliner, I think, is the key word there. Tell me about yourself as a streamliner.
Yeah, I feel like I hate bespoke solutions. Like everyone wants their own kind of custom fed idea of how the end result should look like. But I think honestly, when you get down to the the nuts and bolts of it. I think a lot of people are really happy with an 80% solution.
Yeah.
And so really clearly defining what is that 80%, how do you automate most of those steps? How do you processize that? How can you give the playbook to someone so they can replicate that whole process end to end? And I think that streamlining does give way for more bespoke stuff. If you really can nail that 80%, then it gives you the room to kind of innovate on top of that. But I think a lot of people kind of skip that 80% standardization, which I really like. So
yes, yeah, right. You don't mind working in that space.
yeah.
All right, and then moving right on. Actually, I'm gonna go back a little bit. So Caleb works at Data Joe with me, so he's our operations director. Jake, Joel, and Guy, I would say you're consultative providers. Is that a fair? I'd say thought leadership consultation, and then John, I'd say that you're a visionary publisher, visionary media publisher, and we're trying to have more representative media publishers on the call, which is why I invited Jason here, which you'll hear about him later, and that was why I originally invited Kenny. And so I'm going to try to even categorize everybody a little bit too for each other, so that you know who you're dealing with. But Blair, I'm going to let you go. I think, are you next? No, yeah, Blair's next. Media revenue driver. Oh, dude, go ahead, man. Tell the revenue story. And I put you in the category, kind of like Data Joe, of vendor, but probably consultative vendor, right? Or partner in the space, specifically best of. So go ahead and talk to me about revenue. That's your favorite word, ain't it?
It really is. I mean, I think I was just, very early kind of trying to evangelize with my newspaper brethren and media brethren in general that they needed to diversify their revenue stream, and they needed to be looking for ways to make money digitally. And I feel like I'm still kind of doing that and kind of looking for the different avenues where you can kind of create pockets of revenue, and where that intersects with kind of first party data and building your email lists and all of that coming together. And, and I think, like I said, I love reading Guy's stuff, because I think I definitely feel like that media companies need to be rethinking what they're doing. I feel like they need to take a real long look at what they've been doing and really think about how to do it differently. And I think that this is the biggest problem that they have, is that they've been doing things the same way for forever, and they never stop and really say, hey, look, is this smart? Does this make sense anymore? And so I'm a big believer in finding those ways, particularly using technology to say, hey, how do we take the next step?
Yeah, man. And I'll add on top of that, I'll take the final word on that. You're a believer too, like, because you've actually generated revenue successfully from your particular suite of products. Then that makes you a believer in the fact that there is money out there for media organizations to be grabbing that they're not necessarily grabbing at this point. So then, Kenny, passing it over to you. Kenny wears two hats. One is kind of a consultative vendor to the space in the realm of ad serving, and then the other is as an innovative publisher. So developing and fixing sales problems. I love that, man. Talk about sales problems.
Well, I kind of see myself as a developer first, and that's just like, writing code since I was like a teenager. But I kind of look at it like, when a kid is playing with Legos and he makes something and he wants to show his mom and he wants like, the validation from it. That's basically what I've done my whole life. Even at the very beginning of Broad Street, is that I built something that another publisher put to good use and saved an advertising relationship. And then it got me thinking, like, why doesn't anyone else do this? And so it was like, how can I put code to good use? And then it just kind of like, grew into Broad Street, and then it grew into, I said, well, I don't want to just wait for other people to use the cool stuff that I build. Like, I want to use it, and I want to put it to good use. And then I want to focus on, like, in a sales context, those advertisers. I want to understand what those problems are, and I want to build stuff for them that they're really going to like. I want to get closer to the person who's using it.
Yeah.
And, I think that's really what it all comes down to. It's just like, I'm building stuff and I want people to use it. Like,
Legos, man. Yes.
Yeah. What's like, if no one's using your creation, like, are you a creator? You know, so I don't know. I think that's kind of like maybe that's what it's all about. But
I love it, man.
But
Yeah,
I use one of those hoodies you posted on LinkedIn. That sounds pretty good.
I'll get you one.
that's
Yeah, yeah, no, actually I have so many, and the reason is because so I got a batch of 12. I'll keep this quick, Johnny. I got a batch of 12. They screwed up and put the front design on the front and the back. I was like, can you guys send? And they're like, you know what? Keep them. We're gonna send you another batch. Then they screwed up and like made it so they weren't like there wasn't enough ink on the front. And I was like, you screwed up again. They're like, you know what? Keep them. We're gonna send you another. So they just got it right. I got 36 of them. So if you guys want the sweatshirt says like it says Red Bank Green on the front, but it says "Long Live Local News" on the back.
yeah,
I
man.
feel like that's something you can get behind. So anybody who wants one, I'd be happy to ship you one.
Dude, I love what you're doing, bro. Yeah. And then for Jason, I think you might have came in a little bit late, but Jason, you're going to describe your expertise in 2 to 4 words. So 2 to 4 keywords that describe your expertise. And then passing it on to Marta, finder of the needles in the haystacks. Come on now. Tell me about the needles in the haystacks.
So I would say that the needles are answers and the haystack is the haystacks. Is that plural? Haystacks are the mountains of information and kind of the kind of mire that we all live in every single day trying to see clear. It's just the kind of all of the information that we're pummeling with. I have that. I can see a forest, not the trees, and within it, answers to business problems, opportunities, challenges, all of those kinds of things. So that's what I do. It's kind of like maybe a tea leaf reader.
Yeah.
Ish.
Right. Telling the stories. Yeah. And then to give context for Marta is a consultant, and specifically, in the brand survey, brand study realm. So taking, but not just a brand study to do a brand study, but like, let's do a brand study where we figure out what the people actually think, and then tell the story of that in a way that the company can benefit from. Right.
Yep.
So you're a data storyteller. So then Jason, what you got for me, man?
Yeah, you said 3 words to define me. Is that right?
Yeah, 3 words to define your expertise. What you see.
Yeah, I'd say communication. I have an improv background, so I come at business with the idea that everything is done in the moment. Even if you're planning for something 10 years out, it starts right now. So from that comes collaboration, working together as a team. That's really important to me, always has been. If I'm, the old adage, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. So I much prefer to find smarter people than me, collaborate and make bigger projects that my own little brain can come up with. And then finally, teamwork just comes back to that collaboration, communication. We're nothing if not a team, and bigger than the sum of our parts.
Yeah, that's good. And then Jason is the publisher, a leader of Alaska Business Magazine, and has such an amazing team. So that's where Jason, you and John have some synergy, because that's John's heartbeat, is building excellent teams that just smash it. So so you're on the call in that capacity. And like I said, in the future, I think I'm going to try to even the score a little bit more, like publishers who have an interest in innovation and data, as well as the different providers that are around that, to facilitate conversation. And then to go back to the vision statement, right? So the original reason I even called this roundtable together was for 2 reasons that can sum it all up. One is to foster collaboration, right? And so I know so many amazing people that are good at what they do, in all these different realms of media and data, but specifically kind of that intersection between media and data, that I want to make you all available to each other, so that from this room, relationships can blossom and partnerships can blossom, and the media industry can be better because of the conversations that we're having, because of the relationships that we're building, right? And then the second would be to benefit media, which is kind of implicit, right? So we're the focus of the time is not, data in the general sense, but it's data in the media sense. And how do we equip media publishing organizations that we all have some sort of kinship with or affiliation with, How do we help them to thrive in a world of change? And so that brings me to kind of the first question that I have to kind of stimulate conversation for the group. And that question was going back to my original. Oh, snap. Does anybody remember the question? I hope you do, because I hope
Man, a
you.
pop quiz already?
Yeah. Okay. So what is the most important baby step for media publishers to take right now? Right, as you see it, what's the most important baby step for a media publisher to take right now? And then what is the simple principle behind this step? There we go. So that's the deep question, right? And so what's behind that is, gosh, there's so many options, there's so many ways, there's so much pressure, you know, and a lot of the narrative is kind of a, I think Kenny, you've been pointing this out. The narrative is kind of a doom and gloom narrative, like, you know, why can't you guys get it together? And I'm like, okay, let's turn that into productive. Let's have a productive conversation about what is a baby step, right? Like what is one thing that anybody could do and turn around to begin to walk towards a better future in their organization. And that can be for people that are suffering, that are really struggling right now, or that can be people that are innovators and want to do better. But what would be one step or one, and then the principle behind that step? So floor is now open. Go for it, man.
All right. I was actually on a call with a publisher in New York yesterday, and it was a classic, like, you know, small newsroom, or like I mean, if you even call it a newsroom, it was like 3-person show, and it said, like, you know, I feel like I'm just like stuck, you know, where I am. It wasn't even really like a sales call. It was like they just wanted to pick my brain, but I said I just feel like I'm stuck in terms of, like, you know, revenue. And you know, I really hate like ad sales. We really hate doing it, but just feel like it's a necessary evil. And you know, I basically told her, I was like, you know, basically, especially an organization that small, it's like the thing that's fundamentally going to limit you is like really the founder. Like the founder is always the limit between like where a company is today and where they're trying to go. Like, and a lot of times it's just like their mindset. And that's true. Like even Broad Street, like it would, I am the one standing in my way to what I want Broad Street to be. So what I do, I try and develop myself to a place that, but you know, I said that thing you said about like ad sales and selling ads being like kind of like this necessary evil, that is fundamentally standing in your way, right? Because you're just thinking about selling the ad, but like if you can make a shift, and this is a really hard thing because like she's standing on one side of the mountain, I got to lead her around the other side of the mountain and look at something in a completely different way. But like you are not selling an ad, like you are helping someone who is probably clueless when it comes to marketing. You're helping them achieve whatever goal it is that they have. They probably can't even articulate for themselves. And as a journalist, you're really good at asking questions. And you should be asking them questions to understand how you can potentially help them. Maybe advertising is a vehicle to helping them, but your goal is to help them. It's not to sell ads. So I think it's really to shift the way they think about working with the people that actually give them money.
Yeah. Now, I've got some follow-on questions on that, but I'm gonna open it up to the room first if anybody else has comments before I
I want to jump on what Kenny just said. I spend 30% of my time working with local business owners, and my belief is that if we can solve local business owners' problems or understand what their challenges are, we can solve the media industry's problem. Because I think, you know, it's two sides of the same equation. And I think I forget the number. It's 1% of local media companies local media companies work with 1% of the businesses in their market. TV stations, especially 1%, because the cost of creative is so high. If you're in a market, smaller markets, then it's probably closer to 10%, but still, I think that's both a positive and negative. If we were dealing with 60% of the local businesses and we were in the same position that we're in, I would say there's a real problem. When we're dealing with 1%, I think the solution's kind of obvious, right? To work with more than 1% and solve their problems. So Kenny, 100% agree on that. And that's a bad way of looking at it. Selling ads. You're actually trying to get them new customers, trying to help them retain customers, trying to get their, you know, make it easy for them to survive. So I'm glad you said that. Sorry,
So
Joe.
I'm working with a startup publisher. Okay, they literally took funding and are starting up. It's like 3 or 4 people, and they've been going a little over a year, I think, and are just killing it. Why? Beginner's mindset, completely. They are deeply embedded in the industry. They care about the industry a lot, and the people in the industry have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
Don't care. What's this? Is this a form thingy? Should we, should we ask people, do you think like we should make a report and like ask, what should we ask? Should we ask like, no, zero legacy holding them back, zero, hubris or ego. And they're doing very simple things very well. And it's totally working. Like it's amazing to see. And I think that's a problem with most of these companies is they they think they know everything, unfortunately. And the minute they try something new or it's blocked by some legacy revenue they can't let go of month to month, be it print that now ties to some audit requirement, which ties to some information gathering requirement, which ties to some system limitation, right? There's like 5 chains holding back progress. Whereas these guys are like, we got a little money, we love the industry, let's write to this thing and let's go. And it's so refreshing to see. So that would be my offer to the industry is like beginner's mindset, day one mindset. I know it's spoken about a lot, but it's not, it's such a problem in trade and B2B, I think.
Yeah. And then what are those very, and if anybody else, this is gonna be a quick one, if anybody else wants to chime in, but my quick one is, what are those very simple things that are being done very well? Example
I think
of 1 or 2 of those.
the content is really well done and lots of local in-person events like meetups, cocktail hours, and then very basic revenue model, sponsored newsletter, 1 sponsor, no ads anywhere. Actually, there's no ads. That's it. They won't do it. They won't do anything remotely, even if gives it like they don't want. They got the newsletter to 20,000. They're like, that's good. We don't want any more. I'm like, okay, like, what are you telling me? You don't want more? Like, everyone wants more. No, like, let's keep the list quality. Let's make sure we're working well with it. So I think like parameters, realistic like parameters and guardrails, just face to face, touching the industry and good writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. There's nothing else. No shiny objects. No nothing.
No, that's good, man. Thank you for getting that degree of detail in there for me. All right. So any comments on what Kenny said, what Guy said, or what Joel said? Yeah.
Johnny, I just wanted to add that my immediate reaction, because I sit a little bit outside of media and kind of interact with the kind of world of publishers and the world of media. And my immediate reaction to your question, which now has borne out in what everybody has said, is step number 1 to me, baby step number 1 is to admit that a baby step number 1 needs to be taken, and that there is a bright future. Change needs to happen. You need to take a baby step, face it, right? And that this idea of possibility. So it's gotten lost a lot, particularly and I love what you just said, Joel, about the beginner's mentality. It's all about possibility. You have nothing to lose. And so that's kind of my instinct when I'm kind of looking at it from the outside in that, to me, baby step number one is to say we're taking baby step number one, and we're defining a point forward.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love the positive, the infectious kind of positive, hopeful, just heart behind that. Cause that's been very much my experience with you, Marta. So thank you for that.
There's a saying, and I'm gonna butcher it, but it's basically whether you believe you're right or wrong, you're right. And it's like, what you believe is gonna really dictate, like, and it's hard when you go on LinkedIn, and I don't know if you guys are following the same 20 talking heads I am. You go on LinkedIn and you're reading about, like, all the doom and gloom, to put it nicely, to be honest. And these horrible forecasts, these prophets of doom, and it's like, relax. You don't know what the future holds. Yes, we're in a state of transition. Things can get better just as easily as, and it's like, what do you want to focus on? Do you want to focus on the things that are getting better, or do you want to focus on the things that you don't like? You can decide for yourself what kind of future you want to live in. If you focus on the good, things are going to get better. If you focus on the bad, they don't get better. But I would like to follow up on that. That's a very good point.
Well,
I'll
Kind of like that.
Go ahead, Jason.
Big pardon. Also, my past life as a mountain biker, still like to crash into rocks. But the idea when you're mountain biking is to look at the path, not at the obstacle. So you don't focus on the rock because you'll crash into the rock. You instead focus on the path because that's where you want to go. So just kind of tagging on what Kenny said there. Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's beautiful, man. I was going to say, for anybody here, if you're not following Kenny on LinkedIn, you definitely want to follow Kenny on LinkedIn. Bro, I get more pumped about the stuff you put out than almost anybody else, Kenny.
Really?
But because you're just playing around, you're building Legos, like you're trying stuff, and then you're documenting those things that you're trying, right? As you enter into, how can I create more value for advertisers? How can I delight them? How can I make them say, wow? And then I've seen 4 or 5 just crazy ideas, and some of them are working. So, just a quick plug for Kenny's LinkedIn, man. Let's get him, because I always give you that comment, dude. I always say,
no, I appreciate it. I love, and anybody, you guys are all very practical. I like following anybody that I don't want to knock academia, but like people who are doing it, like people who are trying to make it work, who are hands-on and making it, like, I love seeing stuff like that. And there's those folks, but then, like I said, the talking heads who don't really have a lot to do with what's really going on, but they're the ones with the really big audiences. And I'm always worried about, like, can you quiet it down? We got a whole generation of people who are going to try and make it work for the future, so anyway.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah. I appreciate that, man.
Jenny, I have a quick question. I want to raise it to the group. One of the concerns I have is that publishers are aiming too low, right? And I think in one of the articles I wrote, it's like, pick a high number, pick $5 million, and in 2 years, and back out what it takes to get there. And if you continue to look for incremental growth, you're going to be focus on boulders, not pebbles. And I think too many people in the industry are focusing on the pebbles because pebbles are easier than boulders, and boulders take risks. So I just want to raise that to maybe that's not realistic. I mean, I haven't been at a media company in 4 years, so the landscape was different 4 years ago where we could experiment and there was a lot of opportunity. But I just want to raise that. Do you guys think that
I promise to shut up after this, but I 100% agree. Sustainability, what are we talking about? Prosperity, that's where it should be. Should be aiming for prosperity,
not survival, right?
Survival. Exactly. Nailed it.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I'll also contrast that with the fact that Pebbles keep the lights on, right? And so that's why, right?
Yeah.
Like when you see, all right, well, and I do run it like as a vendor and a partner in the space, I do run into that where it's like some folks are just so busy trying to keep the lights on. The idea of, forecasting some huge bright future is just maybe emotionally beyond where they're at the moment. And that just is what it is, right? I think the more we have moments like this where we are speaking out about a bright future and the possibility of it, the hope for it, and then even beginning to get into mechanisms to get there, then I think some people can start to get on board and dream about the future. But you've been in survival. I've been in survival mode before.
But
Right?
Johnny, I think too many people, sorry to interrupt, but I
No,
think too many
yours is-
people are only focusing on Pebbles and they don't have a boulder on their roadmap, right?
Right.
They don't know how they're going to get to the other side.
A BHAG. Yeah, I call that a big, hairy, audacious goal. Is that another way to put boulder?
Yeah, exactly. I see
Inspires-
John fidgeting and he's a practitioner, so I want to see how the publisher reacts to what the consultant is saying. So is that realistic, John? That I know you have boulders, but most publishers don't. And most CEOs are the person that the entire organization looks to for the future and looks to for the vision. And most CEOs I talk to don't have the vision. They have.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I think the funny thing about this analogy is the boulders are coming, down on top of us.
Down on top of them, right? But now
So if you're not paying attention to the boulders, then man, you're gonna die. Yeah, I like the whole analogy. I mean, trying to climb a mountain. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to climb a mountain. Kenny talked a lot about helping customers. One thing that we found really super effective is especially the local ad business is that they actually want to be part of the mission. Like they actually love the idea that there's a news organization that's helping cover important things that are happening in the community. So taking care of the client first, plus the mission, like being mission driven is really, really important. I think the first step that I would recommend is curiosity and studying. I mean, I got, guys, I don't know, y'all listen to like the rebooting podcast, the algorithms and what I can't remember the rest of that, but these are like media like people that study our industry and they're like just talking like we're talking right now. And I learned so much, on all the different email newsletters that are out there about, our industry. Like I see something that Kenny does on LinkedIn. I mean, I freaked out my creative director because Kenny gave this idea of, our designers. Kenny, you'll like this because I know this was your idea, but our designers have a hard time getting enough content from the sales reps to build ads that are effective. And Kenny had this really smart idea. Well, like why don't, instead of emailing, these are why are 3 reasons why your business, your customer would want to come to you. Why not get on the phone with them, record the conversation, and have ChatGPT kind of summarize it for the designer so that it gets in the job jacket. The designer opens up the job jacket to design the ad, and they got this great like description. Just brilliant stuff like that. Just like being curious and seeing what other people are doing, and being open-minded to it. A lot of it you're not going to take on, or you may plant it in the back of your head, for a future thought. Guy, you said something earlier that made me do that. I was like, okay, I need to put that back there. When you were talking about incremental revenue, I was thinking about something else, but I was like, okay, I'm not going to use that right now, but I'm going to put it right back in the back of my brain, and maybe it's going to come up in a conversation that'll be helpful. So I think being curious is a lost art amongst us old legacy folks that come from the legacy industry. You know why? Because we dominated. Our softball team name at the Houston Chronicle was the only game in town. Like, and we were the only game in town, back then. And so the mentality shift of saying, okay, like now we're not. Like, in fact, there are others that are doing things way smarter than us. And instead of being foolish and just burying your head in the sand, be curious and see if you can learn something from these other players. So.
Yeah, man. And action item for you if you're willing to take it on. Like if there are a couple newsletters or blogs that come to mind that are stimulating to you, I'd love it if you follow, just shoot, no explanation, just shoot a couple links in email to all of us. So
Yeah,
that,
likewise. I think that'd be a fun email thread, actually. So I'll start it. And if y'all
Yeah.
see something I have, then add it on, please.
yeah, love that,
Love
man.
that. Love that.
So I'm gonna let I have more for you, John. More questions for you because there's a burning question I have, but I'm gonna wait again and see if anybody else has a response to that.
I mean, I think it, building on the concept of boulders, I think you have to, the media companies need to think about, do these ideas fit in with their kind of overall big strategy? And when they're looking at kind of things, is like, does it make sense? I guess this was my problem with programmatic, when everybody was just like racing to programmatic, and I was like, wait a second, this flies in the face of local advertising, which we're built on, and I think that there was this rush. It's like, oh my God, we got to do this. And, there was some cheap money to be made in the short term, but it didn't fit in with a big, kind of long tail strategy that these companies were built on. They were built on boulders, to John's point. So I think that, you've got to think about, from a media company's perspective, what are the bedrocks and the foundations of every media company that has ever existed, especially on the print side, which is where I come from. And then be curious and experiment with the technology, and then use the technology to your advantage to hopefully refine those principles and make things better. I mean, I had a call yesterday with a big publishing group, 60 publications, and we were kind of looking at, they have 25,000 leads in their best of universe, and they only sell 8 to 10% of them. Now that's still a ton of money, to Guy's point of only selling like 1% or 10% of your SMBs. Like, they still are making a lot of money off of those 25,000 leads that they're selling 8 to 10% of. But what we started talking about is like, well, how can you use technology to take that to 20%? Like, how can you expand that? So it doesn't change overall what they're doing or what their philosophy is, or the sales strategy, or the fact that what they're selling is a good product. It is a boulder this is around their best of, kind of ecosystem. But I was saying, like, hey, let's leverage technology to do what you can't do, which is you can't reach enough of these people in order to maximize the revenue on them. So I just think we can't forget what media companies are built on, those bedrocks, but how can we, instead of using a pickaxe, what can we bring in a backhoe, or, something to kind of, make things go faster and more efficient.
Dude, I love it. And you brought up something. I want to ask a question, a follow-on question on that actually does tie back to what John said, about being curious, and then being mission driven, you said specifically. And I think the handful of publishers that I see being the most successful are actually quite different from, they're not all the same, right? They're not uniform necessarily, but what they seem to have in common is a pretty strong ethos, and then they're actually living and acting consistent with that ethos, if that makes sense, right? Like, we all have mission statements. Every organization has a mission statement, but how many organizations are actually living out the mission statement, like in a practical way where you can say, I do this, this, and this, and this, and here's why I do those things, right? Like, as an example, our missions, our mission statement is partnership, right? Why am I having this conversation? Because I'm a partner and I'm trying to facilitate partnerships. So it's very clear to me why I'm doing this. It's not a waste of time. This isn't like just direct revenue for me, for my company. It's not me selling my product, but it is us perpetuating partnership. So I would like to ask this on a fundamental level. What is the core asset of a media publisher? Like, if you just stripped everything away and you got as simple as possible, what would you say is the core asset? And I'm asking that to my publishers first, and then other people go ahead and jump on.
For me, I think it's information. We're the bread and butter obviously is the advertising that supports the editorial that we're putting out there, but we we're always trying to make the editorial sexier so that the advertising will be more likely to follow suit and follow along and want to buy into that editorial.
Yep.
But to me, that's the core asset, I think, if I'm answering your question correctly.
No, that is there's only like maybe three or four possible answers, right? So one of them is information / content, right? I'd say content probably fits is equivalent to that.
Yeah, I like brand, and
Yeah.
I think the legacy brands really showed how stupid they were in this when they, like, the Houston Chronicle went to Hearst Digital Services, for example, because in the segmented world where we have email newsletters, website, legacy products, whatever it is, the brand, podcast events, all that stuff, the brand is what allows you to kind of scale all of those different mediums. And so I'd say the brand.
Okay.
I like that.
So we've got information and content, we've got the brand. Kenny, what would you say?
I think it can vary by media company, and doing like really local news on my side. I think that I kind of think of it as like outside of middle school, and when there's like, one person or like a few people, there's that cool group, like they're in, and like everyone's kind of like in their orbit, like they're the community, like they're the facilitators. And I don't know if there's a great way for me to articulate it, but that's the way I look at Red Bank Green. Like, we are it to a lot of advertisers. Like, the reason they want to work with us because they want to be in on the conversation. They want to be with the cool kids too. And like I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We call them gravitational partners.
Yeah, it's like we're the center of the community. It is community. It's like, I don't know. There's a good name for it, and I'll think of it right after we hang up, probably. But like, I don't know. What is it?
We in
Trust.
our new employee orientation, we talk about that. We have it as part of our values. We use it as our faith value as a company that says basically we're here to accomplish something great. And what I mean by that is what you're saying. Like, our reporters could get a conversation with a governor, a senator, a U.S. senator. Like, we get to have a seat at the table, and that is like, it's like this moral authority, right? I like your cool kids table is way better than a moral authority. But that's the same idea. That's really good, Kitty. I totally agree with it. That's why advertisers want to meet with you. That's why readers trust you, that kind of thing. So whatever that is, cool kids are. Yeah, I agree. That's good.
Gravitational, yeah, like you said, Blair. All right, yeah. So anybody else throw anything else on that? Any non-publishers in the group?
So, well, being in publishing most of my career and still in it, I think you could have an audience. Like, you could go, like, if we all got $1 million to start a publication tomorrow, we could go find some content. We could go find some audience, some lists, right? But I think what gives the brand its weight and what gives a publisher a gravitational pull is the ultimate inventory, which is that they have the trust of the audience. So they have built this inventory of trust. And that's ultimately, like, as soon as you violate that trust, right? And it's in two ways. One is they trust your content, but they also trust that you're not going to abuse their information. So they'll give you the information.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the two things. One thing, trustworthy information, and two, you're not going to mess with their information. And those two lanes of trust are, to me, the ultimate asset. Like, everything else rides on that. Events business, new products, local meetups, advertiser. So that's how I think of it.
I agree. I mean, this is just echoing what others said, but it's the relationship with the community. And that stretches not only to the reader, but to the SMBs and to the people that are, enabling you to do what you do. You have to have that community relationship in order to be successful in the media business. I think that it's the reason why small, tiny little towns, newspapers and or media organizations in tiny little towns work, and the ones in Houston work. It's the same general philosophy, just at scale.
All right, now I'm going to ask a question. What's the measurement? Okay, because and then I want to set aside a little bit of time to deal with some practical concerns. but this is so good I can't pass it up. So a lot of these answers kind of amalgamate and kind of find their foundation, it seems like, in something like trust, which I think is another way to say authority, which I think is another way to say brand, which I think is another way to say relationship, right? I think those words are pretty close. Community also fits in there. What is the metric? So whatever this magic is, right? This magic thing, we call it trust, authority, brand, community, relationship, whatever we call it. What's the measure of whether you have it? What's the metric of it?
I think engagement, that's a measurable metric.
Define engagement for me.
Digitally, opens, views, comments, clicks, replies.
Yep.
Conversations.
Yes. Yeah. So an authoritative, trusted brand with a relationship, a deep relationship within the community is always going to have engagement in the way that engagement can look different ways, but it's always going to have engagement back and forth, whether that is commenting, subscribing, whatever the things that you described, and probably a dozen other things or more.
Yeah, attendance, right? Yeah,
attendance. Yeah.
Kind of touching on what Joel just said on the previous question, that trustworthy information, that engagement also includes for us the willingness of our sources to talk to us.
Yes.
So we first had to build that trustworthy information, but to get to that metric and figure out are we serving our readers? Well, are our sources trusting us enough to talk to us? Are they returning our calls? Are they responding to our emails? So we kind of use that as a metric of the health of that relationship. Like how quick were they to reply, and how easily were we able to write that story?
No, this is so good, man. I love this conversation, and we probably could do this for 2 hours, but we've only got 9 more minutes. So for the last 9 minutes, and we may even cut early, I always want to leave space for specific needs that people in this group have. And, those needs generally should be data related based on who's on the call, but they don't have to be data related because this is also a relational call and a partnership call. So, I'm helping Jason. Do you mind if I didn't get but do you mind if I talk about
throw me under the bus? Do it.
All right. So Jason, for example, of a need has a need to get 50 years worth of print magazines digitized with OCR to create some sort of a searchable repository, right? Like that's a need he has. And it's not a need that's, he's beat the streets and try to find the person. And it's not a need that's easy to fulfill, especially with some of the bigger visions he has for this initiative. And so I'm working with him on that to bring the right people into his orbit to make that happen. So if you know somebody like that, then let us know. I know somebody like that, and I've already kind of made the introduction, but that I'm leading out with that as an example of like, hey, we can share needs here. Right? Like we can talk about the things that we need, the practical things that we need, and not feel dumb about it, because that's the point. So if you have needs, let's start there. I'll leave it there and see what we scare up, or if anything. Dan, you want to kill the air in the room? Just ask a bunch of people what they need. That's how you do it.
I guess we got it all figured out. Good meeting. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. But I will leave it. I'll leave the awkward silence a little longer. Just in anything that you can think of that you need, or even somebody that's affiliated with you needs.
Hey, Jason, I have a company that can digitize and index your. They were really big in the digital book space, and then digitized a bunch of magazines and journals. So I'll share that contact with you. Where are you based? Oh, Alaska.
Alaska. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then all the publications are present.
Yeah. So we have the print editions
Okay.
for about 30 years worth of these, and then we've got digital for the last 15 or so.
Perfect.
So those we already have ready to go basically, but we're just trying to get that old legacy information into a place where we can search it, where it's more useful internally for us in
Yep.
researching past stories and things like that. But also we're trying to figure out then how to crack the nut to make that so that the user on the other side of the website, the other side of the screen, can actually access that information and search it. And that's the next nut to crack.
I'll send you the contact info.
That's great, Guy. Thank you.
Hey, and real quick, and Johnny, I wanted to shut up when I heard what your asset is, and I've been writing a lot about the asset is the audience,
Yeah.
and trust is the umbrella. In a sea of WordPress sites and pop-up media companies, the legacy brand holds a lot, but the audience is the asset, and what we choose to do with the audience next is really what's going to be the difference between being in business in 5 years or not. And I think the content is I don't want to say this on a call with content people, but it's commoditized, and people don't need long form anymore. They're looking for highlights and bullets, and it's really the audience that we deliver. I saw this thing on the Today Show today about landlines. 26% of Americans have landlines still, but it's the asset that the phone company had was the copper to the house, right? For us, it's the copper to the house, and what we choose to do with it next.
Would you mind, action item for you, following up? Because I think you have a very clear.
I have a lot of analogies. I'm sorry, forgive me.
No, I'd love for you to, if you have a deck or something like with that relationship between content, audience, all these different things that you described.
Yeah.
You're really good at putting those things in a clear format for people to think about. So
I'll send my deck out. My 3.0 deck is actually.
Love your decks, bro. He's got the best decks, y'all. Guy has the best decks. So going back, just know I'm always going to open up time at the end for needs, right? So, I'm going to set up a cadence for, if there's something that you need, I want you to be able to find the person that provides that here. So, couple more seconds on needs, and then I'll actually go. What I need, or what I would love to see, is interaction with content that comes from this. So I'm going to be pushing this out in our Substack. Would love to get, because as you can probably tell, what excites me about this, I feel like we're onto something sustainable, like long-term potentially, and beneficial for media and for the people that are on the call. And so I covet your interaction. So whether that's on the email thread, with the things I've asked people to already submit and comments on those things, or following in kind, or whether that's interacting with the Substack that comes out, and then the LinkedIn post that will invariably come out. That would be my ask for this. And then anybody else before we close, have whatever you want, man. If it's a need.
Yeah. I would like if anybody knows anybody who knows nonprofits inside and out. I would like to learn more about how they're structured, how they're governed, how they are started. I want to know everything about them. And I know I could probably read a book, but sometimes just being able to ask and hear it, that's just something that's been on my mind.
Yeah, man. Great place to ask that question, man.
Are you specifically interested in just a blanket statement of nonprofits, or is it in a specific arena?
Generally, I mean, kind of this arena. But yeah, no, just how they operate and what the rules are associated with. It's one of those areas I know they exist. Our industry is full of them, but I want to know everything about them. So it's one of those like curiosities that I need to. It's foggy right now. I want to clear all the fog and see it crystal clear.
You mean nonprofit media companies, Kenny?
No.
Oh.
Like nonprofit in support of media companies, kind of like closer to like an LMA. Like basically an LMA would be a good model, not exactly that, but like how does an LMA work in theory, whether it's an LMA or something else?
I can help you with that. So if you
really
have
all right, cool.
So
yeah, I'm just basically understanding that inside and out is just a thing. So I thought
I got a couple of people I can connect, but I So I got a couple people I can connect you with for sure.
Mhm. Thank you. All right, I'll hit you up afterward.
I would also love, like, I'd love to have a great UX designer who's really good at converting data into interfaces. Yeah, I'd love to have somebody who's like, that's their bread and butter. That's what they love. Like that. That's like an artist who also, like, a rare person, artist in data.
I know a company. They're overseas and they're based in the Netherlands, and they're phenomenal.
Yeah.
And they're not like inexpensive, but like they're really good and they give a shit about everything that they do. And sometimes that's half the battle, is finding someone who like cares about the quality, like
Yeah.
doing a really good job. So
Introduce me. Yeah, please introduce me.
mhm.
And you know, for part, I'll be ending on time just because I want to respect everybody's time because I want you to come back. So yeah, we're done. I love this.
Thank you, everyone.
Take it easy.
Bye,
All right,
y'all.
everybody, thank you. And thanks, Johnny, for setting this up.
You're welcome.
Thank you.